Welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Anne Catherine Dern. If you haven't already, check out part 1 at the link below. This time, we're going to talk about her hit YouTube channel, whether composers can truly be happy, and get her thoughts about the controversial issue of ghostwriting. So put on your walking shoes because it's time to get out of the studio.
If you want to be a full-time composer, I think, part of that is running a business, and that means you're gonna have to work with a team of people. Whether those are full-time staff people or people you contract in, that's a different story. Most composers don't have full-time staff. But to me, it's important that they're visible and that they're credited, that they get their share of ownership of the work that they've done. Even if something is based on my themes, it doesn't really matter, because if you've done the work and you've put in the effort, you deserve the credit and the ownership. And as someone who's done a lot of ghostwriting in her day, and who's assisted and has been in positions where, credit was taken for my work a lot, in front of producers, executives, in front of agents, in front of the entire scoring stage, it's a bad feeling if you've written, an entire TV show episode and you're not credited on it, and someone else sits there and gives interviews about it. Yeah. The entire orchestra thinks that this person has done it, and you're sitting there and you just have to be quiet about it, and your name's not on it, and nobody knows that you've done it. It's such a terrible feeling for me. I know there are some people that are okay with it, that don't want the spotlight and that are fine being the person behind the person and never really be seen. But to me, it's kind of a form of fraud, to be honest, especially if the producers and executives don't know about it. Because very often they're kept in the dark because the composers want to pretend like they did all the work. Yeah. And there are composers that are taking credit for scores that they did not even write the themes for. They've done absolutely nothing on it. Yeah. And I think that's just despicable. Then just give co-credit to the person who did it with you, or, give them something, introduce them to your agent, or, help them out because they really helped you out. So do something nice for them, and that hasn't happened that much for me. When I've written entire movies by myself, often underpaid, no credit, no cue sheet, no nothing. And then I'm just like, well, what did I do that for? Yeah. The paycheck, of course, but because sometimes you just don't have a choice. Because I needed the money, so I had to say yes to crappy deals sometimes. But I very, very much disagree with this. I think it's fraud, and I think it's very misleading. And it's just not the right thing to do. So I very much try to steer clear of that kind of behavior.
Well, I have bad news. My microphone has failed for some reason. So the good news is we're going to let Anne do most of the talking for the rest of the interview.
Look at us complaining about...
I know.
Just like, it's such a trek down there to this gorgeous beach and that gorgeous cafe right at the beach. It's like 25 minutes of walking in the sunshine.
Is this a first world problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes we whine about stuff and I'm just like, I get on my bike and I bike down there and I'm like, is life really that bad? I don't know. Probably not.
It's good to get out sometimes, yeah.
It just gives you perspective, because sometimes you get so much rejection and so much, I've made a whole video about how much I hate pitching. And how much I hate, it's not even just the pitching, it's just the getting your hopes up and then being crushed every single time. I hate it. Because it's such a roller coaster. Like one day you're on top of the world because you got into the final round of your dream project and you're like, oh my God, I'm this close to doing the thing that I've worked for 10 years, that I traveled halfway around the world for, and then it just gets snatched away for whatever random reason. Like you didn't have the right passport, or a bigger composer came in, or You know, they really wanted someone from that culture for this thing, or someone is related to this person, or someone already knew that person. And you're just crushed so much, so often. And it's very easy if you're just like in a dark room by yourself to just lose perspective on all that.
Yeah.
And then you come out here and you're like, I live at the beach. It's fine. It's okay. I can live another day. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just eat some good food, enjoy the sunshine, and then everything doesn't look so terrible anymore, you know?
I always think about like whatever stage of a composer's career that they're on. I don't think at any point anyone ever says, well, that's it. I'm happy here, you know, because there's always some other person that's, you know, you just have to enjoy the ride, I guess.
That's something I really need to learn to do better, to just enjoy what I have and enjoy where I'm at while I'm there, because it'll never be enough. My manager keeps saying that because I keep whining to her about these things. Like every day I'm like, why am I not scoring this? Why am I not scoring that? Why did they pick this other person? And she's like, your time will come, but just enjoy the journey because you're never going to be satisfied. She's like, you're one of those people. And if you look at, you know, a lot of very successful composers, they're never satisfied. You're never there. There's no destination that you're getting to. And she was like, think 10 years from now. What if you actually got to score everything you wanted to score? What if you got to score that Star Wars show and that Marvel show and that, you know, fantasy thing that you wanted and, you know, all the things that you're passionate about? Think about then. Think about you're in your mid-40s and you got everything you wanted. How sad would that be? You know? Like, you're halfway through your life and you got everything. And I was like, I've been thinking about that a lot more lately. Like, what if I get everything I ever wanted? Then what? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Then you're like sitting there alone in your house. And you're like, okay, and what now? Where do I go from here? So she's just like, it's about the journey. Just enjoy it more. And stop always, this industry always makes us look to the future. You know, it always is like that next thing, that bigger thing, that, you know, and she's like, maybe look back a little bit more. Like, where were you 5 years ago? 5 years ago, you did not have a manager. You did not have an agent. You did not have the productions that you're working on. You had nothing on Netflix. You weren't working with Hallmark. You weren't, you know, you didn't have the skills that you have now. So just chill. Like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was an unpaid intern at Remote Control, you know? So I'm just like, I need to appreciate that, you know? She's like, 5 years ago, you didn't have a YouTube channel. You didn't have an audience. Nobody knew who you were. So just relax.
Yeah.
Like, she understands that I'm ambitious and that I want things, but at the same time, it's so easy in this city in particular to forget, because there's this grind culture and this constant rat race, you know, and you're just like, I gotta stop for a second.
Yeah. We're not good at like stopping and just thinking about or appreciating where we are and what we have.
And just resting.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay if you just want to spend a day at the beach. It's okay if you just want to spend a day in bed with your laptop and Netflix. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's, you have earned the right to do that. And I don't know, I have this thing where I feel very guilty the moment I take time off, because I'm like, but everyone else is racing forward. Everyone else is going to overtake me because, you know, I've taken a day off.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's so silly. It doesn't work like that.
I think the social media too kind of really accelerates that, because you go on, you check your feed, and, I got this and I'm doing this, and you're like, what did I do today?
Yeah. What did I do? And everyone else, funny enough, thinks I'm so productive, because I publish the YouTube videos and then I have a movie coming out every other month or something. So everyone is like, oh my God, like, I wish I were half as productive as you. And I'm like, I didn't do anything today, so I just was biking at the beach, so I didn't Like I have my moments of not doing anything, so.
It does feel like you're always doing something.
I try.
Yeah.
I've tried to up my social media game to just kind of always be present. But it's very difficult to keep up. Like there are months that go by where I publish nothing on my YouTube channel, and then that immediately gets reflected in my viewership and everything and subscribers. Like immediately it goes down, the algorithm just stops feeding my videos, and I'm just like, ugh, the pressure of keeping that up. I just want to take time off.
Speaking of your YouTube channel, I think it's an amazing channel. I'm sure everybody watching probably already knows, but if you don't know, definitely subscribe to Ant's channel. But what was your thought with why you decided to start doing those videos?
Well, I'm part of this community called Teammates. I think you're in it as well, in that group. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think actually I'm on that one.
I have to invite you to that. And it was a group of, still is a group of like former assistants and current assistants, because we're kind of trying to change the landscape of a lot of things that are wrong in the assistant community in every branch, but we're obviously focused on the music branch in filmmaking. And we had this thing which was like a monthly MIDI mock-up challenge, and so I did one of them with the Jurassic Park theme. And so everyone was always posting their videos and like DAW pictures so we could comment on the mock-up and like make suggestions on how to improve it. So for that, I was like, well, I could just make a video and just put it on YouTube, I guess. And so I did that with just like my laptop and a bad microphone and, you know, just did the thing. And it turned into this really long half-hour video about my setup and stuff. And then people were actually watching it and were like, can you make more of that?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's a lot of work because I didn't know anything about this. I had to learn editing, and I was doing that. I think that one I did in iMovie. It was really bad. I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess I could talk more about my setup. And a lot of other people where I had given guest lectures had asked me as well if I could do more stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, let me do one on like Pro Tools session prep, because I had just seen a video on YouTube of someone very badly explaining Pro Tools session prep, like someone who hadn't even done it before. And I was like, oh God, this is bad information. If someone does it like that, they could get fired. At the very least, they're gonna get a very stern talking to from the engineer.
Yeah.
And since I had assisted so much, I knew all these workflows, and so I was like, maybe I should just put that information out there. Also, because a lot of people, first of all, don't know this stuff. A lot of YouTubers aren't working in the profession that they're making videos about. So I'm like, well, maybe I could add a perspective from, you know, someone who actually has worked on stuff. And at the same time, there are also no women in that space. So I was like, someone's got to be the first, so I might as well do that. And, you know, I was just like, I could also use that space to make making offs about my, you know, the movies I've worked on and with the team, and kind of, you know, come full circle with the Teammates thing, where I just make the team more visible and kind of try to normalize it a bit more, that there are multiple writers and orchestrators and a bunch of people working on stuff. Yeah, and then it just kind of grew bigger. At first it was a very slow thing, and then all of a sudden, you know, on Facebook and certain groups it was advertised, and then, you know, people higher up were watching the channel, were like, this is good stuff, you should watch this. And then it was shared on VI Control, and, you know, and at a lot of schools schools with film scoring programs, they started sharing it. And then it just slowly started to just grow and explode, and it just became this side thing that I started to do, where I was just like, it's not that all of the information on the channel is factual. Some of it is just my opinion, which people get very upset about, apparently. But yeah, a lot of it is also just, you know, I've done this for these 20 other composers, and there is a process to this, and so this is how we do this. And at least people can rest assured that it's coming from someone who's actually doing this and who has done this, rather than from someone who kind of pieced together the information, or, you know, just kind of, you know, where sometimes I watch the video and I'm like, that's not exactly on point, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's very important to educate on stuff that you actually know about. And if I ever make a video about stuff that isn't my first job, I'm very upfront about it, that, you know, I know some stuff about this, but you should really go to other people that do this full time and learn it from them. So yeah, that was kind of the driving factor. And I also really like that I have full control over it, because in the rest of my career, I have very little control. So with this, I can just make stuff and put it out there, and nobody can stop me. And you know, nobody gets a say. It's just me. And then I also got really interested in the video stuff, funny enough. Like, you know, slowly I started to buy like lighting and a proper camera that I didn't know how to use until you told me how to use it, and started watching all these tutorials. And you were also the one who told me about DaVinci Resolve and color correction and, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, it's just interesting to learn something like that without the pressure of having to do it professionally.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Because I am interested in it, but I also just want to learn it at my own pace and not have to make money out of it. You know, that's just not the goal here.
Like, anyone can watch your channel and at least have somewhat of an idea of just the basics of how to do composing.
That was really the goal, because, I mean, I'm hiring people for a variety of things, and coming from Europe, obviously, to me, education is free.
Yeah.
Or, like, not free, paid through by taxes, of course. And then I came here to the US, and I was like, this is a lot of money for what you're getting. You know, they're graduates from these really, really expensive film scoring programs where like 1 year costs $40,000 or more, and they don't know how to send a cleaned up MIDI file to an orchestrator. And I'm like, well, that's like one of the number one tasks an assistant would do. Or they don't know how to prepare a Pro Tools session for a scoring stage. And I'm like, that is literally something that you would do 100% as an assistant.
Yeah.
You know, there's just so many, or like their mock-up skills are just so subpar compared to the industry level. And I'm just like, this stuff should be taught in schools. Like, how are these people paying $40,000 a year and they're not taught very, very basic things about MIDI programming and very basic things about, you know, the workflow aspect of it? Because so much of it is technical. So much of it is, well, this is how you do it. You know, I know they're focusing a lot on probably the writing and orchestration and counterpoint and all that stuff, which is important too, of course.
Yeah.
But if you want to be someone's assistant, or you want to actually get through a whole project, a whole feature film, there's so much more that goes into it that they're not taught. I understand some schools have really great business connections to composers, and, you know, they can place you at studios or at least make an introduction. And there are some schools that actually have working composers teaching, and then, you know, certain things do get covered. But with most schools, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you come in here and you don't know anything about workflow, and I always thought that's a shame. And it's a shame that people have to pay so much money, which is also gatekeeping a lot, of course, because, you know, I was accepted at USC as well as UCLA, and I couldn't go to USC. I had to give up my spot because at the time it cost $45,000 plus living costs in LA. So for 10 months or something. I was like, I don't have that. I couldn't get a scholarship, and so it was like, well, so I'm not going. And someone else got my spot, and there was no effort being made to help me out either. So I was like, that's such a shame, because there are people like me out there that would really love the opportunity to know stuff, but they can't afford to pay for the best schools. And then what? They just have to give up, or they have to, you know, just figure it out themselves. Apparently my topics are getting more and more controversial. There are so many things that I'm still steering clear of, because there are specific communities that are very particular about There's stuff like the classical community. I've gotten a lot of flack for my orchestration videos, even though they're just, quick tips, but, some people from the more classical community were like, you're oversimplifying and we don't like it and you're making it look so easy. And I'm like, that's the point. I'm trying to get people into this and to show them that they too can learn this. Yeah. And if they want to know more, they can learn more. And the Mac versus PC debate, or the sample library debate. Apparently, whenever you give your opinion on sample libraries, it's like a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
It's, because...
They're like holy wars. The sample library debates can be rough.
I know, and there are some developers that I'm going to like more than others because it works with my writing style. I don't understand why people are so attached to the tools that they're using.
I've definitely learned that there's nothing you can do to completely get rid of criticism. And inevitably there's people that are just bashing any kind of composer, even if they win an Oscar, they're going to be, there's going to be critics no matter what. And if those people can be criticized for something, then, I guess anyone can be criticized. So it's what's the point of trying to please everyone?
Yeah, you can't.
Thank you so much for spending the afternoon. It's been a great time. And definitely, if you don't, check out Anne's YouTube channel. I'm sure we'll put the link below somewhere. And thanks again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
On the next episode of Out of the Studio, we're headed out to a ranch north of LA to meet composer Brandon Campbell. He's going to try and show this city slicker how to ride a horse. And then we'll talk about what it takes to make it as a composer.
You don't know when your chance is coming, and you might get one chance, but you have to find a way to keep working and keep making progress every day in your music. You hang out long enough, you will get that chance. You will get that chance.
So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified as soon as the next video comes out. Thanks for watching.